Well, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the channel. It is Tuesday, and you know what that means normally. And it looks like we got our mic centered again this time, so hopefully the sound is a little better than last week. Once again, we've had some stuff going on this month. It's been tough times with the loss of my girlfriend's father again, so thoughts of comfort and peace to her. And normally on Tuesday, we would continue in the series of the wisdom of Dr. David R. Hawkins' classic teachings on spiritual truth and enlightenment, which is what we were talking about last week, which I believe last week's video was entitled The Source of Happiness, the Source of Peace, the Source of Contentment, and it was a real good lesson in that. But I think we've skipped Wednesday too many times this month at least. And what we do on Wednesdays here, if you haven't been here before, is the Corpus Hermeticum, the divine Pymander. You know, sometimes I don't even feel like making a video. And then I usually do more than 75% of the times that I don't want to do it. And those usually end up being pretty good videos, ladies and gentlemen. What do you think of our interesting painting here? A little waterfall action going on. I mean, the color is a little different because the lighting there, but anyways, not sure what I'm doing. Let's see if we can get it to stand up again. So, the Corpus Hermeticum, the Divine Pymander, original manuscript, Hermes Trismegistus, 3rd century AD, a new edition, 2015, edited by Tarl Warwick. The Corpus Hermeticum is one of the primary works within the Hermetic tradition. This Renaissance-era craft is nonetheless based upon philosophical materials from far older times, namely 3rd or 4th century AD. But to me, just my thoughts, I think this is a overarching understanding of the knowledge and the wisdom of the ages, the knowledge and understanding of the nature of reality and the universe and our souls and our spirits and God and consciousness and the physical versus the non-physical reality and all of the greatest questions that we could possibly ask. I think this is a collection of that knowledge that has been passed down, and not just the Corpus Hermeticum, but the Hermetica and the Kabbalion and many, many other books. Some of you probably know this one, many other books on the subject. However, I think this knowledge has been passed down to us from pre-reset times, maybe multiple resets ago, from Atlantis or Lemuria or wherever you would like to think it was from, but many, many cycles ago, or maybe even just the previous golden age. And maybe as we descend through the Yuga cycles, and we fall from the knowledge and the wisdom and the understanding, and we lose our telepathic abilities. Once again, I'm just rambling my thoughts here. As we fall through this circle, this cycle from the top and we go down, we lose our abilities and, possibly superpowers that we would call it in today's science fiction. However, we descend and we forget and we look back at things that we had done once and say, wow, how did we do it? So amazing. And a lot of people nowadays, out of such forgetfulness, amnesia, you may say, tend to tell us that no, there's no way that we could have ever done this, for we're not very special at all. And this is part of the trap, that we begin to believe that we are not special and that we cannot do this. And it must have been something else outside of ourselves. It must have been aliens, ladies and gentlemen. And this goes back to last week's subject on Tuesday, the source of happiness. It must be somewhere outside of ourselves, because this is what everything is telling us. that there's no way that we can do this alone, and that we are really truly divine and sovereign and free and great, amazing. You are a spark of God and divinity right now, just sitting and being where you are in this very moment. But we've been told that isn't the case for so long, and so we continue to believe it. I continue thinking of the Bill Hicks, life is just a ride, and they try to come to us and tell us, it's just a ride, like, calm down, don't take it so seriously. But that's not what we've been taught. And we've been on the ride so long that we tend to think that it's real. But see, that gets into a deep, I'm just trying to get to the point that this spiritual knowledge, this spiritual philosophy, this wisdom, this understanding, wisdom of the ages, is a lesson not only from times prehistory, but it's a lesson to ourselves that we have a greater ability not only for happiness and peace that we can bring to life rather than seeking to get it from somewhere outside of ourselves, but that in every other area as far as spirituality and, the greatest questions are concerned. With that little opening rant that I had no idea I was going to do. See, it's usually the days that I don't want to do a video, it ends up being a really good one. So, hopefully that's the case, ladies and gentlemen. It looks like we had finished the previous section entitled Of the Common Mind to TAT, probably a couple weeks ago. I'm going to try not to continue hitting the microphone with the book. But line number 125 from Of the Common Mind to TAT, and it is the 11th book, I believe, in the Corpus Hermeticum, the 11th chapter or book. At the finish up of that, it said, whether you are speaking of matter or body or essence, know that all of these are acts of God, are acts of Atum, are acts of the oneness, the creative fundamental nature of the energy force that is reality, that we find ourselves a part of. I mean, if you have different understandings and different names and clarifications for God, then that's just fine, because as we've learned, the names and our silly little human understandings are not so important. It is just recognizing it. And so let me continue. And that the act and matter, the act of matter, is a material state, the bodies of a corporeal state, and the essence, an ethereal state. And this all in a whole. It says, and this is God, the whole. All of it. The matter, the corporeal, the ethereal, the essence, all of it is God. All of it is Atum, the Tao. And in the whole, it continues, there is nothing that is not God. Wherefore, about God, there is neither greatness, place, quality, figure, time, for it is all, and the all through all, and about all. This word, O son, from the words of Hermes Trismegistus, thrice greatest Hermes, or the Egyptian sage god Thoth, says to his son Tot, this word, O son, worship and adore. Adore it. I mean, what is it that you adore in your life? Probably a loved one, but if not, then maybe a pet, or even a work of art. I mean, there can be many examples for these kinds of things that we do truly appreciate in such a way that it gives us some sort of a glee, or, This is what I think of adoration. However, worship and adore this word, and the only service of God is not to be evil. But remember a previous chapter that it was entitled The Greatest Evil in Man is Not Knowing God. Where are you carried, O men? Of ignorance? When you see that you cannot understand it. For the malice of ignorance surrounds all the earth and corrupts the soul, shut up in the body, not suffering it to arrive at the havens, not heavens, the havens of salvation, and I'll add immortality. This goes back to another philosophy in this, or another teaching in this philosophy in this teaching, whatever way you want to put that we are both mortal and immortal, physical and spiritual, dual in nature. Therefore, it labors to make good things that seem and are by the senses judged and determined. And the things that are true, it hides. So this is talking about God, I think. It labors to make good those things that seem and are by the senses judged and determined. And the things that are true, it hides and veils in much matter, filling what it presents unto you with hateful pleasure, that you may neither hear what you should hear, nor see what you should see. Now, don't we all know the phrase, those who have the eyes to see and the ears to hear? This means you go beyond the substance, you go beyond the form to the essence. You know, you go beyond, you read between the lines, so to speak. As it said there, what is really true, what we really are, this oneness, this connectedness, this energy force, once you break it down at the smallest level, that we are just vibrations and frequencies and electromagnetic fields and harmonies and polarities and, resonance and dissonance. All right, sorry. Had to grab something there. The cat was beginning to attack the hair tie. Calm down, Beans. All right. So now it's just so I love how it put it there. And the things that are true, it hides and veils them in much matter, in the physical, in the looks, in the separateness that we tend to experience from our mortal, physical, separate nature, from the ego. However, we find ourselves today, once again, I never know where I'm going to go with this, and so it's all just randomly inspired, and so hopefully, once again, you get value. And it is no hard thing, he said, in Of the Common Mind To TAT at line number 112. He said, it's no hard thing, O son, to understand God. And if you wish to see him, if you wish also to see him, look upon the necessity of things that appear. Because remember, just a second before, we were reading on how the trueness of what things really are, the essence, is veiled and hidden by the physical, by the bodies. Just remember, we began there with the active matter is material, the act of the bodies is corporeal, so an in-between nature, maybe, and of essence, an ethereal state. and all these are God. So if you wish to see God, you must look upon the necessity of the things that appear from the ethereal to through the corporeal to the physical. I'm totally paraphrasing here and just reading random lines from whatever, once again, comes into my, it's just happens. I don't know. And he says, and the providence of the things that have been and are done. So the necessity of the things that appear, that are here now, and like the deep connections and, you know, multitude of alignments and synchronicities and connections with every other thing in its environment and reality itself. This interweb of connection and between things, I mean, the stories to get anything to where it is now, there's such a huge story behind it that you could technically go back as far as you wanted forever, saying, yeah, that this led to this, and this led to that, and that led to that. And now you're sitting here in this room in a chair, or you're standing, or you're walking, or you're listening to this video slash podcast, although it's in video format. And so when we can look, that's what I think it means by the necessity of things that appear, that there is this ultimate connection and story. Come on, Bean. Come on, Bean. She's eating books now, or trying to, but anyways. See the matter being most full of life, and so great a God moved with all good and fair, both gods, daemons, and men, God's spirits and men. But we must look to see the necessity of the things that appear in the providence of the things that have been and are done, and see the matter being most full of life, and how it is moved by God. Tot said in replies, but these, O Father, are holy acts or operations. If they be therefore holy acts or operations, O Son, by whom are they acted or operated, but by God? And so this was the debate which we titled a couple weeks ago, For Those Who Don't Believe in God. And this was the argument. Are you ignorant, he says, that as parts of the world are heaven and earth and water and air, in the same manner the members of God are life and immortality and eternity and spirit and necessity and providence and nature and soul and mind, and the persistence of all these, which is called good. And there is not anything of all that has been and all that is where God is not. So I'm going to leave that off there. And now we are going to book number 12 in the Corpus Hermeticum. This will probably just be a beginning little sentiment, as it is Tuesday, and we can continue more tomorrow on Wednesday. But I wanted to make up for missing last Wednesday. I know so many of you get a kick out of these Hermetic readings, which doesn't mean Dr. David R. Hawkins isn't good. He goes, what are the fields of realization? As things arise, then there's a willingness to surrender them to God. There is this willingness to surrender things as they arrive. It's interesting because he says surrender then isn't this giving up as we, as most of us would take it, but rather it's like when you hear a musical note, the note just arises and you allow it and it dissipates. It rises and falls. He says, surrender then. Wait, no. As you hear the note, it already crested. It already reached its peak and then is falling again. as you hear it. Surrender, then, he says, is the willingness to let go of all positionalities of everything. Your separateness, you're one side of I'm this side or that side, and this is me and that's that, and we are. This surrendering is the willingness to let go of the positionalities and the separateness and the masks and of everything. One guy once asked me in a comment, he says, "Why do you call yourself an NPC?" I think pertaining to this sentiment, a non-player character, or somebody that is just like a kind of just a program operating and with no free will. That's taking it kind of deep, guy asking the question. That's a whole different subject. But I appreciate the connection there because everything is connected and it's important to ask questions and question answers. So thank you, because that's a deep, different area to take this. However, I consider an NPC wouldn't have the free will to seek to discover the lost wisdom of the ages and the pharaohs and the knowledge of the things that are. However, I could be very wrong. That might just be part of the program anyway. And if it is, then this is a good game. However, when you hear a musical note, it rises and then it falls. It is already crested when you hear it, and it's already falling. It is the willingness to let go of the positionalities that it arises as it arises. Not to label it anything or call it anything good or bad. Remember, our human perspectives. Not to take a position about it. The willingness to surrender, you could say, to God, to Atum, the universe, grand organized design, and begin to be in harmony with the Tao, which is what is described in this Hermetic text, which I think is described everywhere in different terms, just trying to figure it out. So it makes it so fascinating to me as we've been doing this for time immemorial. I mean, his story is debated. However, we have been doing this before any story. We've been trying to figure out this thing that we know and is obvious. However, it is very mysterious. Everything as it arises. This allows us to go through major things in our life with a new perspective. You're not experiencing it the same way that you were. The ego tends to think in terms of cause and effect, but when you can detach from this positionality effect, you can begin to experience things quite differently. Now, we will begin, just as a taste, Book 12 of the Corpus Hermeticum, his creator, or Monas, M-O-N-A-S. His creator or Monas. Who is he? That is a good question. I'm not seeing a name. Tot. Tot is asking again, but how, O Father, did not God distribute the mind to all men? Tot always has the best questions. I mean, if I could think to ask of such questions. But that's why we are here, ladies and gentlemen. To seek to achieve and maintain happiness through enlightenment. What does that mean? Through greater awareness and understanding of the nature of reality. So that hopefully through that awareness, through that understanding, through this new perspective, that we can begin to change the quality of our moments, and our moments, every moment makes up our lives and our experience. And so hopefully through this new awareness, new understanding, new connection to God, harmony, union with divinity, oneness, source, Atum, Ra, grand organized design, the Tao, whatever you want to call it. I find it interesting, though, how that ah sound is always there. God, Ra, Allah, Buddha, Krishna, even some of the like creator gods from Mesoamerica, Viracocha, and it goes on with this ah sound. I mean, even the Tao has an ah or a o, or, these kind of this om, ah, these kind of sounds seem to be connected to like this. There's something about that I've yet to find. I used to think of it as the sounds of creation, and you could use these sounds to help yourself create to help yourself project your intention onto reality, and hopefully through that focus and projected intention that you could create desired outcomes for yourself. And I mean, this is real stuff. Anybody can read about this and discover the secrets of manifesting. I mean, but this this is off a subject once again. And so if you're getting value, thank you so much for being here once again. I forgot to get my tea. 1 second, it's over there. All right, I found my tea, and apparently we found a kitten. But she's adventuring, so that's fine. Ladies and gentlemen. What, Beans? You wanted to say hi? Or are you just climbing on stuff? Well, anyways, ladies and gentlemen, tea. Simple pleasures are the best. Soothing pleasures are the best. And tea soothes the soul. Right, Bean? Well. So, with that said, let us dive into chapter 12, or book number 12 of the Corpus Hermeticum, his creator, or Monas. The workman, line number 1. The workman made this universal world not with his hands, but with his word. See, that goes right back to what I was saying about the sounds. In all the various names of God, that remember, the names aren't important. But there was a line in the Hermetica that said the sound. Oh, I wish I could find that. But in the original Egyptian, before it was translated to Greek, that the sound of the letters of the word resonated the meaning. I mean, it went deep into how the sounds were extremely important as to giving a much deeper sense, essence, or meaning to the words. And so the workman, God, maybe, made this universal world not only with his hands, but with, no, not even with his hands. It doesn't say only, not with his hands, but with his word. And I think his is kind of, I think it should be its, or a blend of masculine and feminine, but the creative force maybe was the male aspect of the oneness. And then I mean, it talked about this in the beginning of the Hermetica and the beginning of this book in the Holy Sermon, talking about regeneration and the circular gods. And see, that would be a different subject. According to the operation of the course of the, yeah, there was many. It goes into necessity, destiny, and yes, many other things. Line number 2. Therefore, thus, think of him as present everywhere, and being always, and making all things, and one above, that by his hands has framed the things that are. Line number 3, or verse number 3. I think these are books and verses, but it could be chapters and lines. It's totally up to the way that you want to look at that, ladies and gentlemen. And once again, thank you for being here. I never know where I'm going to go, and today we're going this way, and tomorrow we will most certainly continue this section, because that is what we've been missing for a few weeks, or a week or so. That's a short one, only 52 lines compared to the 119 from the previous one. The workman made this universal world, not with his hands, but his word. Therefore, thus, think of him as present everywhere, and being always and making all things in one above, that by his hands, that by his will, has framed the things that are. For that his body, not tangible, nor visible, nor measurable, nor extensible, nor like any other body, for it is neither fire, nor water, nor air, nor wind, but all these things are of him. For being good, he has dedicated that name unto himself alone. But he would also adorn the earth, but with the ornament of a divine body. And he sent man, both an immortal and mortal spirit. And see, there is the dual nature, the immortal and mortal spirit. And man had more than all living creatures in the world, because of his speech and mind. For man became the observer of the works of God, and wondered and acknowledged the Maker. So an interesting start to this one here. He sent man, both an immortal and mortal spirit, and that man had more than all living creatures in the world because of his speech and mind. Now remember, man and woman, because of his speech and mind. For man became the observer of the works of God and wondered. Wondered. Not like, this is weird, but like, wow, this is wonderful. This is beyond wonderful. This is a wonder. In amazement and awe. And acknowledged the Maker. I could almost just call this, for those that don't believe in God, part 2. Because, I mean, we've pretty much gotten at that, I think. Not sure. Once again, I never know what to title these videos anyway, so hopefully it reaches who needs it. But this, of all the things that are, and of one above, that by which his will has framed all the things that are, for it is neither fire, nor water, nor air. Surprised I'm not seeing earth in there, which would be the 4th element, and the ethereal, or the mind of God, being the 5th element. That's weird. I was just looking at the 5th element over here. However, different subjects, synchronicities. I mean, I've been noticing, I had a comment last week that was about some of the synchronicities that have been going on, and it is just amazing right now. So if you're experiencing your own personal synchronicities, tune into them and try to, try to get something from it. Definitely don't ignore it. For it is neither fire, nor water, nor air, nor wind, but all these things are of him. For being good, he has dedicated that name unto himself alone. But he would also adorn the earth, but with the ornament of a divine body. And that goes back to what we were saying before. And he sent man both an immortal and mortal spirit. And man had more than all the living creatures in the world because of our speech and our mind. Our connections to God, these different faculties. For man became the observer of the works of God and wondered and acknowledged the Maker. For he divided speech among all men, but not mind. and yet he envied not any, for envy comes not to Atum, but is extent here below in the souls of men that have not the mind. Interesting. And that goes to the great question from earlier. Tat asks, but how, O Father, did not God distribute the mind to all men? Because he said, for he divided the speech among all men, but not mind. And this envy comes from the souls of men that have not the mind. So Tat is saying, but why then, O Father, did not God distribute the mind to all men? Thoth, I'm guessing. Trismegistus, thrice greatest, replies, because it pleased him, O son, to set that in the middle among all souls as a reward to strive for. Now, isn't that a lesson to those of us who would wonder if this is all worth any effort at all, this spiritual pursuit, and this attempt to understand God and reality and the nature of the things that are, ourselves, our spirituality, and our psychology? What we and who we really are? Because this reward of mind, true mind, not the mind that contains envy and, all of the lower parts of our experience here. The bottom half of the scale of consciousness from David Hawkins. This all comes from that lower mind that we can transcend. Why did God do this? Because it pleased him, apparently, O son, to set that in the middle among all souls as a reward to strive for, so that we may grow, hopefully, through our experience, I'll add. And where did he set it? Tot asks. Trismegistus replies, filling a large cup or bowl therewith, he set it down, giving also a herald, and he commanded the herald to proclaim these things to the souls of men. Dip and wash yourself, you thou that are able in this cup, that you that believe that you can return to that which hath sent this cup. You that acknowledge how you were made. As many, therefore, you understand the proclamation, or doused into the mind, these were made partakers of knowledge and became perfect men, receiving the mind. Remember, men and women. But as many as ignored the proclamation, they received speech, but not mind, being ignorant how they were made or by whom. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the situation we find ourselves in. And this little chapter is going to be a very incredible summation of, I think, a lot of what we have learned throughout this entire journey thus far in the first 101 pages that we have done up to this point in this series. Thus, O Tat, is the knowledge of the mind, the beholding of divine things, and the understanding of God, the cup itself being divine. Being divine, ladies and gentlemen. I like that bit that he said a little bit there before. He replied, because it pleased him to set that in the middle among all souls as a reward to strive for. that through a constant contemplation, a rumination, a ponderation, a thinking upon, that we may come to attain the knowledge of Atum, the one God, simply of the things that are. But where did he set this reward? It uses the metaphor of a large cup or a bowl. Within. And he commanded a herald to proclaim these things to the souls of men so that we may receive this knowledge, this understanding, this higher mind, so to speak. But there's many ways that can be translated as well. Comprehending all things in their mind, which are upon earth, which are in heaven, and if there is anything above. Interesting. And lifting themselves up so high, they see the good, and seeing it, they account it a miserable calamity to make their home here below. But remember, ladies and gentlemen, as we have been taught that this is all God, and it is our mission to have reverence and honor for it, and then simply to tend to it and keep it. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is a boon to God. That's a boon to knowledge, a boon to Atum, the Tao, grand organized design, great spirit, the universe, the force. I do like that explanation of it, the force, because it really is kind of this energy force, this underlying field or pattern or essence. However, how, Tot asks his father, what then, after learning that there can be no religion more true or just than to simply seek to know the things that are, the understanding of the nature of all things? I mean, nothing's off limits here. We're just trying to understand it and to acknowledge thanks for that unto that which hath made them, which thing we shall not cease continually doing. If this is the lesson, though, what then, Tot asks, oh, Father, what should a man do, a man or woman? What should we do here to lead our life well, seeing there is nothing really here that is true, but it's all an illusion or a ride? Thoth, or Tatme, replies, be pious and religious, O my son. This doesn't mean what you think it means on the surface. This doesn't mean go to church and pay your offerings. I mean, this means be spiritual and have reverence for that source which we came from, that which is everything that we are currently a part of, and honor that. For he that does so is the best and highest philosopher. These are the first words of this book back in the first chapter, Hermes Trismegistus, his first book. For he that does so, for she that does so, is the best and highest philosopher, and without philosophy it is impossible ever to attain the height and exactness of the knowledge, of the wisdom of the ages. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is a boon to wisdom. And from that, what was just said, remember, this is back from the Hermetica here again, going back to that philosophy from the prophecies of Hermes. The first words, pure philosophy is a spiritual striving. through a constant contemplation. Remember the meditation, the contemplation, the ponderation, the rumination, the thinking about it. Through a constant contemplation to attain true knowledge of, as we just read, the things that are, or of the one God, Atum. Boom, ladies and gentlemen. Boom. And that is always a lot of fun. So hopefully you get value. And consider subscribing and share this with those who are like-minded so we can get this to the people that needed. Every little bit of likes and shares and comments helps the algorithm and helps support the work that we do here. And hopefully we can begin to be the tide that raises all boats, to be the change that we want to see. I mean, but to be a percentage of this spiritual revolution that we all know is going on, this awakening, this unveiling, if you want to call it that, the reveal. Either way, ladies and gentlemen, remember to seek to achieve and maintain happiness through enlightenment, through a greater awareness and understanding of the nature of reality, so that through that awareness we can increase the quality of our lives. And also remember to seek to discover the mysteries of our history and the lost wisdom of the ages. And also remember that there is no way to happiness or enlightenment, because it is the way. It is what we must bring to life, create an ability within ourselves to bring it to life, so then we don't have to look for it somewhere outside of ourselves. So we're no longer saying, all those things we were telling ourselves, oh, when I get there and I have this much or I have that, and when I know this, then I'll be happy or enlightened. That becomes irrelevant, because then we are there. And then hopefully from that point, the entire journey is wonderful. All right. Thank you so much. I really love and appreciate each and every one of you that spends time here with me in these videos and with the authors, Timothy Freak, Peter Gandy, Tarl Warwick, Hermes Trismegistus, the Egyptian sage god Thoth, David Hawkins, and all the wonderful other authors and poets, philosophers and mystics and sages of the ages that we go through here, ladies and gentlemen. All right. Be sure to expand the description also for yourself to get the books for yourself, to put them on your shelf. I like that rhymes. It's fun. So get it for yourself to put it on your shelf. Also a link to C60 Purple Power. It's in the background there. But the most powerful antioxidant known to man. Give yourself the gift of health. And as well, a link to my landscape paintings in my Etsy shop. Nothing rhymes with wealth. Maybe wealth rhymes with health. And get the book for yourself to put it on your shelf. So interesting. Anyways, just having fun here, ladies and gentlemen. Really, you don't have to do any of that if you don't want to. This is all about the philosophy and us hopefully making progress in our thinking processes so that we can hopefully increase the quality of not only our lives, but the lives of those around us, and begin to be the critical mass, the phase transition, the 100th monkey, whatever you want to call it. But remember, ladies and gentlemen, be the change you want to see. Be the example you want to set. And I'll see you tomorrow.